Hey, what's up, people? This is the Option Podcast. This is episode 187. As you can see, tank top today, man. It gets hot in here. It is boiling in here. And that's my man, Ty Coots. It is boiling out there. It is so hot. This guy decided to do his podcast portion outside. Buckle up, people. The episode starts right now. Oh, that was loud. What up, Ty?
What's up, Jason?
How you doing? So listen, for everybody listening at home, you have asked, and you have asked, and ask and you shall receive. Because for me, I've got to give the people what they want. Ty Coots is in the house, man. Ty, what's up, baby? We're here. We started from the bottom, now we're here. Yeah, before we got on the podcast, I had like this written subject matter, but you know that kind of goes out the window. This thing right here just kind of whoosh, you know. But let's start from present to past. Let's talk about Motherlode, dude. Let's talk about Motherlode. Let's talk about the 50th anniversary. Let's talk about this magical escapism type atmosphere that the Motherlode provides every year. Never mind the 50th anniversary. So you played with, tell everybody, say it with me.
Yeah, Gage Basie. What a pleasure.
Yeah, he's all about that bassy, right? No trouble. So, for those of you that have been living under a rock or that were too absorbed in the Manhattan Beach Open, there was a tournament, or the Chicago Open. There was a tournament called the Motherlode Tournament where there was some talented people locally. There were some talented people that came from the outside, and it just turned out to be this fantastic, magnificent tournament all the way to the finals. And let's talk about Motherlode. Then I want to just talk about the environment. So Motherlode, you play with Gage Basie, right? And for those of anyone living under a rock, Gage Basie and his brother Lars have made quite the stir this year, right? They pretty good victories in Denver and Atlanta, right? They beat Taylor and Taylor in Denver. They beat Alvaro and Casebeer, and they beat Dietrich and Caldwell in Atlanta. So they've So
Yeah.
for so I mean, they just beat the MBO champions, the Manhattan Beach Open champions. So I mean, I chose. Sometimes I got a choice. I chose right. So very much. Let's do this full circle moment. Then I'll shut up. Last year, knocked in a contend. Or were you in the contenders bracket or winners for last year?
Last year, so Gage and I also played last year,
Right.
and we got up to the semifinals, or like the game to get into the semifinals. And
Was that through the
um,
winners bracket though?
yeah, winners bracket, didn't
Okay.
lose a
Yeah.
match until we're in the semis.
Hmm.
And we see Gage's brother Lars in the semis and Ian Carlson. And so, and I had not seen Ian Carlson used to train out here with us in Colorado. Um, I hadn't seen him. I stopped playing volleyball for like 2 years. Once COVID hit, I was disappeared for like 2 years. So that's like my first year back kind of thing, just having fun. And I hadn't seen Ian in a while. And Ian was a different player than I saw. He was an animal that game, just blocked me like 10 times in a row, like just built a house and I could not escape it. And so they won the semifinals. They go on to the finals and they beat Mark Burek and Jeff Samuels in the finals.
I remember that. Yep.
And so that was the end of our Motherlode last season. And this season we got to see him again, but one game earlier. So it was a 22-20, 24-22, and then 16-14 just
It's
battle
just sick.
against
Yep.
Lars and they ended up taking it. So we dropped down to the contenders and worked our way back up to see. We thought we were going to see them again in the final, but we ended up seeing Skylar and Christian in the final.
Yeah. So take me through losing. You're losing in a winners bracket. You wind up in a contenders bracket. My two questions are: one, how do you hit the reset button, knowing that you know, not like that you lost, and you're like, okay, we lost, but we ain't got time for this, and we still have a shot. Am I answering your own question for you? Was that the mindset when you got knocked to the contenders bracket?
A good question. For us, so when we lost, that was the end of the tournament for the day for us. So we had time to sit and reflect. And Gage, even though he just turned 20 and seems like a young kid, he is just wise in the mind, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
of course, I'm seeing every serve, right? Gage is taking nines consistently in AVP main draw. So the people are serving me instead of him. And uh, what it boiled down to is they really got me on some fours that I didn't recognize. So a lot of four recognition was kind of the downfall to that game. And him just kind of just calmly talking about it and saying, like, you know, talking about my attacking angles and vision and seeing that four recognition and just developing kind of a higher contact point cut shot that's going to fall, whether it's a four or just a stand, you know what I mean? Like just
I just like
getting
a
that
two.
defender to creep up into my cut. So then I have my high line more open or a slap down if I see a four. But really just like he's like, this is the one thing that's going to open up your game. You get the high contact cut shot. And so in the loser, like the contenders bracket, as we faced two other good teams, it gave me a chance to develop that exact shot more comfortably off of the tempo kind of offense that we were running. Because we only had a day. We practiced once before the tournament, and like we said, hey, let's run cool jump shoots and back ones and stuff and just have a lot of fun with it. And so like it wasn't a well-oiled machine by any means, but being able to have two more games in the contenders actually kind of helped me get that piece of my like that tool in my tool belt a little more refined, and used it a decent amount in the finals to help beat Skylar as a great defender.
Okay, when you were talking about four, for some of the more novice audience, were you talking about the four block switch, or were you talking about the four ball location? Just for some
Uh,
for context, I think you're talking about the block, but
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So I'm seeing the blocker line up
hmm
in my line, which
right,
in my mind I have high line open, right? And
right.
the defender, I can see the defender, and then all of a sudden, right on contact, right before
Doing that
they
last
switch it.
minute switch, yeah, hmm
Yeah, the blocker's now blocking angle, and the defender's just walking into my easy line shot that I gave them.
yeah.
So that four block that they ran against me led to some real points for them,
Mm-hmm.
which were at some crucial times in the game, especially a game that close, right? So
Yeah, so for my audience, I swear to God, I'm not trying to clown you, okay, for reference and context, because as you know, this is the Option Podcast. It's a very educated audience. But last week, I was coaching someone actually who was lives in Colorado, but it's in Hermosa Beach, and had no idea on the three and the four. And I was like, you know, we only have this finite amount of time, so I'm like, all right, look, odd numbers line, even numbers cross. So just so I don't assume everyone knows the difference between a two and a four. A two block, you're basically in the fixed position, and the defender's there before they hit a contact. You know, at least there before they hit a contact, and maybe hides it behind the block a little bit. Because quite frankly, I don't even think a lot of people see that person just sitting there on the two. Which is why I like, as a coach, I like the two more than the four. Because I'm like, dude, you don't even know, they don't even see you. You're doing this last minute switch. They have no idea you're just sitting there. Okay, so for my audience, four block is the blocker is showing line and then jumping into cross, right? And the defender's making a last minute switch to line, and very, very vice versa as such for the three block. So for the people at home, three block, ones and threes, odd numbers line, even numbers cross. There's a five block, there's fist. We ain't getting into that because because you know I can steer us both off the cliff, and you were trying to make a bigger point here. But I just wanted that, and it's weird because we just, me and you, we just assume, right? We've been in this
right.
for a long time, and I assume my audience knows because you know I have a dedicated following of just volleyball savages all over the country, including Colorado. So do you weird question? Do you consider losing them in the winners bracket kind of a mixed blessing in that regard? Because last year, like you lost to them and you're like, there's no second crack because it's the semifinals, right?
Yeah,
Because once you hit the semis, there's no more losers and winners, right? You either you go or you're out. So for the
correct.
people
Yeah.
that are
Yeah.
educating, double elimination for people. But go ahead.
Yeah, last year we definitely saw them in the worst spot, right? You want to see that team in the final or the one before the semifinal. So when we saw the bracket come out and like everybody does, you start analyzing if things shape out the way you think they're going to. this is where we're going to meet that team. And we knew that was almost the perfect spot to see him, right? Because you want to have that
Sample size.
right, right. Like, okay, if like, no matter that you lose this, we're still in it. We have a chance. We learned some things. I'm still like bittersweet about it because like it was ours to lose. You know what I mean? Like we beat them
Yeah.
in the first, and like we had it in the second, and then like I said, that forward recognition
Hmm.
led them to take it from me, and then the third was an absolute battle. So I'm still sad that we didn't get to see them again in the final because again they beat us last year, and then they
Yeah.
squeak by a game that, in my mind, we should have won, and then we don't get to see them again. So I still want to see that team and beat them, but to be able to come back and beat the team who beat them for the final is still pretty nice.
Yeah. Look, it feels sweeter to beat the only team you lost here, right? It's better for your the storybook in your head. It's better for the storybook in the Modelo tournament for the audience watching, and for a lot of the people, a lot of the fans you started gaining through the tournament, through every win, your crowd size, and it's weird because I compare this to the Partain brothers, like when they made their first main draw in 2015, when they were in like they saw a lot of people were there for the draw, right? Huge crowd, but I was there for the qualifier, and I just watched their size get bigger for every win. And then third round, all of a sudden, it's like this main draw, like atmosphere for a qualifier game. It wasn't even round 4; it was round 3, and he was playing his coach, Mike Playcheck and Matt Motter, who they beat. But that was just conveying to our listeners what the atmosphere must felt like for you. Um, didn't it feel like there were just a few more people for every match, and people were taking that journey with you, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you kind of commonly, like you said, you see that throughout tournaments, and it's as the story grows, but also as the day gets a little bit later, right? And no, nobody really wants to wake up super early morning for a 7 a.m. match contenders, right? Like so,
Right.
like granted, that's probably normal to have a smaller crowd then, and then it grows and grows. But then you still see like with Aspen in general, it's a lot of people that like you don't really commonly see because it's just locals that have lived in the town or been following this tournament for 50 years that like Jeff is really well known. He's been there over and over
Yeah.
again.
And
So
he won with Casey. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I mean he jumps out of the sand. He's pretty easy to
Yeah.
recognize,
Yeah.
right?
And he won. And he
So
won with Casey too. So if I remember, the
right,
2018. But
yeah,
go ahead. Mm.
yeah. Um, and then 3 years ago, I think Jeff Samuels won with Eddie Michu. He
Yes.
trains with me almost every week, and I can't say his last name. Eddie Mishuga.
Don't say Meshuggah. Don't say Meshuggah now. Okay, I'm from New York. All right. No, but go ahead. Mm.
But yeah, so I mean, to see Jeff in the semifinal, obviously there was a crowd around that one. So yeah, every win was a little bit more fun and a little bit sweeter, a little bit bigger crowd, and then of course like I'm born and raised in Colorado, and
Home field
I
advantage. Yeah.
I was playing this tournament when I was 14 years old in the grass. It's my first year ever playing volleyball, and watching these sand players in like awe, and just being like, how do they do that? And
Hmm.
and then so being able to go from that to here today is kind of a cool like full circle moment.
Yeah, listen, they say championships are not won by blowouts; they're won by 2-point victories. So I want you to consider, even last year when you lost, at least I think one, if not both, of those sets were it's against Basie and Carlson a year ago, right? I believe both of those sets were decided by 2 points. Um, and I also believe that when the semifinals, when you played Adam Roberts and Jeff Samuels, um, that was also decided. One of those games, game 2, was decided by 2 points. There was like this lead, and then you guys kind of like crept back or whatever. So even the finals, right? Second set, it was 22-20. So which actually let's look at a little bit of video. Let's talk about these 2-point victories, and I want to talk about your mindset and the constant level of concentration it takes. Here we go. Wow, zone 4, perfect serve. Good pass. Oh! And that's what you call using your head in a bad way. Too bad for them. Great run by Skylar Del Sol and the kid, Christian Hoover, from the winner's bracket to the finals. Great run by them, but this moment does not belong to them. This moment belongs to the hometown kid. This moment belongs to Ty Coots. This moment belongs to Gage Basie. Congratulations to the winners. 2 sets to 0, Randy. Sorry.
On the 50th annual
Thank you. I had to
Mother
get
Lode
Randy in
Tournament,
there.
men's open division goes to Gage Basie and Ty Coots.
All right, cool. I just wanted to show that. So, walk me through match point, right? Listen, when I spoke to Skylar, because I was speaking to, me, I talk to everyone. When I spoke to Skylar, I said, in order to win this tournament, you have to beat you have to probably play both bases. So, you know what I'm saying? And they weren't playing together, right? So now they're playing separately, and I'm like, so you gotta beat a basie twice in order to win the whole thing. But that was Skylar. I want to talk about your moment. Walk me through 21-20. Was there a conversation? Was it business as usual? Was it one of those things you just treated like 0-0, game to 2? The floor is yours, my man.
Yeah, and even going back at like later that night, I rewatched the match just to like see game film and break things down. But it never felt that close. And I don't want to say that in like some like bragging way. Like they played really well. Like it was a close game for sure. It just, those moments. And I think in your commentary, and Randy was saying it, this is the nervous time. The nerves are out when it's like down to 18-18 in the set. But playing with Gage is just a calm attitude and atmosphere, and it's just like you're hanging out on the beach having a good time with your buddy. So like his presence on the court and the style of offense we were running just kept me calm and collected and not really stressing too much. The very last point, obviously the block that went off his head, and you could see the effort he made to try to dodge the ball, and it just caught his head on the way.
He tried to matrix it.
Yeah, exactly. It's a fun way to win it, but like strategy wise, we knew Christian's tendencies by that point, and he's a swinger, a shooter. He's had more success in a high line than a cut, and running a 4 on that play with him is, let's see if he makes a smarter move and hits the cut shot to win, or if he's just going to try to ego swing it by me. And I got lucky with some hand placement and caught his head on the way out.
Yeah, actually, I want to rewind that point. Let me go back to camera 4 for a second, and I want to Skylar Del Swole. I want you to watch his footwork on the outside. He does this. He goes 4-ball, right?
Wow, zone 4.
Now watch the footwork.
Good pass.
Okay, it's not really.
And that's what you call
It's not really like an indoor thing. So sorry, I thought I saw something completely different. Sometimes as an indoor player, like outside hitters have something called a pivot foot, where their left foot is like parallel to the net, and it gives you more range to beat that 2-man or 3-man block. But at the same time, it limits your range as far as like your eyesight and your ability to see the court. So, yeah, that 4-block really worked against him, because I don't even think for the most part he saw the switch. And the only time he actually saw the switch was when he passed the ball forward, like more in front of him, and Skylar was actually setting the ball. Where Skylar's set location was in front of you, the block. And there were some plays he just saw, and he's like, 4-block, boom, try to beat this hard line on your last minute switch. Good luck with that, right? So yeah, Jesus Christ, I don't even have a question. That was just volley. We're just volley talking here. But do you think I guess my question is, do you think the 4-block switch worked because he didn't have, because he was missing some range on that? And it was also the other question is, like, Christian Hoover was a big surprise for everyone. No one even saw this guy. This guy came out of nowhere. So was watching him during the tournament and like doing some on-the-job scouting more productive to your win against him? He's the guy to get all the serves. This is why I'm asking the question. Absolutely.
Yeah. And yeah, Christian, surprisingly, like Christian and I played the Vail King of the Mountain tournament earlier this same year. So Colorado has like a whole mountain series, like Steamboat, Vail, Motherlode. I'm forgetting more, but like there's 5 different mountain tournaments that are throughout the summer, which are all super competitive. And also just a great reason to go out into the mountains and camp. And
are all of them in Aspen? Where like, give me an example where some of them are located.
So Vail is the King of the Mountain tournament. There's the Steamboat doubles, Hudson Steamboat.
And where is that?
So Steamboat is like
Is it
so
an
Vale's
Aspen?
what was that?
Is it an Aspen?
Yeah, so Aspen like 4 hours from Denver.
Okay.
Vale is the closest one. It's like an hour and a half. And then like Steamboat is a little bit further in. It's like 2.5 hours from Denver. And then there's like Breckenridge, which is called like the Putterhead tournament. So it's played in like Silverthorne and Breckenridge, and that's uh right around that same 2 hour mark. But beautiful, gorgeous towns, right? And good volleyball that like all the locals are going to consistently. But also like Motherlode has the prestige that like it's the 50th anniversary. Right? We've had Casey Patterson and Sean Rosenthal and some of the greats play this type of tournament where Vale and Steamboat and Breckenridge aren't at that level of prestige, but still great tournament. So Christian and I played Vale together, and I saw all of their serves, and it, like I said, I have not been really like that. Volleyball was not my emphasis this year. I was working on my career and getting my business started. And so like to be able to have the success I've had this season of like qualifying in Denver and winning Aspen was a very much so a surprise. The games I played in Vail with Christian did not go as successfully. I definitely did not perform at my highest level. And I don't think Christian did either, because like what I saw in Aspen is like he played out of his mind.
He
Like
really
he
did.
was balling out all weekend in Aspen, and the kid like he can play. Like he
Yeah.
so like saying he came out of nowhere for sure, like in the like large picture, like around the nation, sure. But like here, us in Colorado, we've seen this kid grow up since he was like 12, and you just knew like this kid can play.
Yeah.
So it was cool
Yeah.
to see him in the final at Aspen. That being said, he's still a kid. So the 4 block in the final was like a kid's gonna want to ego swing hard cross on game point, and that's just a statistical average that we thought was going to play out.
Yeah, and it did play out. And you are right. He was very, very new to guys like me. I mean, I'm a bi-coastal guy, but I am guilty of just flying the plane over the Midwest from east to west. But yeah, and it's really, really intriguing to know that to you guys, he's been there the whole time. That's awesome because I got to talk to him, and I'm bringing him up on the podcast because he's moving to Florida, right? Or he's going to spend some time in Florida, and his name is Christian Hoover. You guys hear the name, man. Go out, say hi to this kid. You know, invite him to play, invite him to train coaches. He's so promising. He's got such a great mentality. He's a partner where you don't have to deal with your partner. You know how some people have strong personalities, like Skylar. If you remember, Skylar was a very difficult partner to play with because he was, you know, he's a redhead, he was a hothead, you know. But considering what this guy did in Motherlode, right? He knew he was going to get all the serves, right? Skylar Del Sol is not exactly the blocker, the full-time blocker in most of the games you play. For the people that know Skylar, right? One of the best setters on the beach. Top 3 setter, like hands, set location, you know, right? I mean, how am I doing with him so far?
Oh, 100%. Like
Yeah,
Skylar,
yeah,
I I would argue that he is up there in the upper echelon of like the greats, like Bulldozer, Hauser's hands, obviously
yeah.
amazing, but like Skylar can set from anywhere.
Yeah,
Like he is
Dahlhauser ain't
running
jump
back.
setting. Dahlhauser ain't jump setting. No.
Yeah, it's a different level, but Skylar's out there back end line 20 feet and still taking it with his hands and
Yeah.
just perfect location. It's just like he does some of the most ridiculous setting things that people don't even think should be attempted, and it comes out perfect. So,
Yeah.
um,
Well, I brought up setting because I wanted to talk about you engage the way you guys were setting each other, but I wanted to finish what we were saying about Skylar. We want to finish that thought?
yeah, I was just saying
Yeah.
like as far as again, Colorado volleyball, right? Growing up, like Skylar's the reason that I'm playing beach volleyball. Like I finished my indoor career. I coached a little like here and there and started a beach club with Nathan Yang, and but really like playing, like Skylar took me under the wing, and like I trained with Skylar, worked out with Skylar, ended up moving in and living with Skylar. He the volleyball IQ of that man is
Yeah.
bar none, right? And but he's a Colorado guy and committed to staying in Colorado. And it's always like, these California and bi-coastal like Florida is always like, you look at the top 20 people of the AVP list right now, and you're going to see a lot of CA.
Well,
But nowadays, like
transplants.
Yeah, some Florida's in there. Tim Baumgren being the exception with
Right.
a Minnesota flying in there
And Evan
randomly.
Corey, right? And
Evan Corey for
yeah.
sure with Louisiana.
I mean, and Hawaii's not California. People need to know that, right? Like, I mean, take Hawaii out of that. That's like 15% of your top five. But go ahead.
Yeah, true. That's true.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
But it's great. I love seeing like the Logan Weber, Evan Corey, Tim Baumgren, like the effect it has on the sport to see people coming from different states and they like you have no idea like the amount of people that probably look up to Evan Corey
Hmm.
and like want to be him or are playing this game because of him. Like we have no idea, right? It's just like it's something special in that state, and I think that's what Skylar did in this state for like not just me, but probably the Bases and for Christian Hoover, and like he was the one to look to because he was the one out there doing it, traveling to California and playing in main draws and being an
Yeah.
inspiration.
And anyone that's ever played with him, locally or nationally or even internationally, but mostly domestically, will say the same thing. Like John Mesko played with him a trail a load of tournaments against him and with him in the NVL. Piotr Marciniak, right? They ruled the NVL for such a long time. Ed Ratledge, got to play with him somewhere at the end, but yeah, like top three setter domestically, like out of anyone. Forget locally, right? For me, all right, my list, my top three, I gotta go Phil, because Phil sets. You're a former indoor guy, and all you're looking for, whether you play indoor, beach, or grass, is a set that the blocker's gonna have a hard time with, and at the same time, the hitter can just comfortably do the things that exercise his talent or mental acumen and physical prowess, right? So I go Phil for that reason, right? And not even first. I go Rafa Rodriguez, great set fluidity, the fluidity and the set location, the discipline of him squaring his shoulders to the pole to get instead of doing this or that, that gives the hitter his range back from here to there. And for the audience that doesn't understand that, tough noogies, I'm not explaining that right now. Yeah, and then Skylar. So you can put whatever order 1, 2, 3, which we all can have a great discussion, but to not have those three in there, well, hell, Jeff Samuels too, man. Jeff Samuels' hands are just wow. He look. Someone wants a high set, they'll do that. Boom. And yeah. But I wanted to say that about Skylar. Go ahead.
No, it's funny because Jeff Samuels, another player that used to come here and train, like when him and Skylar used to actually play together, right? And I was living with Skylar at the time, so he came and trained constantly. And just he got just some flack for his set, just because like he comes at it at like a kind of a lower,
Right.
but like location wise, consistency, like I'm not nothing against him, great setter, right? It's just everyone's hands look a little bit differently, right?
Right.
Like how they actually like high and quick up by the forehead or down by the nose, or it's just like I've heard people giving Jeff some flack for his setting.
Yeah, I mean, it's talk about weird techniques like Tim Baumgren, right? It almost it looks like he's got a weird dish set, right? And I think it's almost like left hand is whole hand, right hand is like three fingers. I mean, if you look really, really closely, I'm left-handed too, and I don't know if you notice, a lot of lefties do that. Like I'm pretty sure Partain did that for indoor at UCLA. It's like whole hand left, three on the right. And most of those guys who are indoor setters, it's weird because it sets up their option really nicely, which
And yeah, talking about setters and like Partain's going to quickly come up that list. I mean, the things they're doing with that jump set option, and I think that's kind of where you're going with the next question, is because that's definitely a style of play that Gage and I were trying to emulate and adapt, having that constant option threat with the jump set tempo after it.
well, he's a great blueprint.
And
He's a good blueprint, my man. But go ahead.
yeah, I was just saying like that, like the consistency at which that kid is setting those high level difficult balls is something to be said for sure.
Well, you know what I like about Partain? The difference between him and like the other people that are doing it, which are the Swedes who basically made it an art form, is that you never see him, not never, but you rarely see him face the net as if he's going to hit and then jump set sideways. He's a left-handed hitter. He squares up to the net. So now the deception's still there, and now his margin for error is now out and in, which you as a left side or whatever can easily adjust to, as opposed to running to the net and you're jumping, you're doing this, and if you fool the block, someone has an open shot. That's awesome. But as teams begin to crack the code and see hit setters' body language when they jump, and like if you remember, he beat Maul and Sorum, right? But you remember the next tournament, Maul's watching the jump set, like the Swedes or whatever, and he's like, he ain't hitting. You know, because they already scattered it out. Those Eastern European coaches are living in the video room like hermits, dude. I swear to you. So you can't crack the code if you're in system, right? Because sometimes they gotta jump, right? Otherwise, they're gonna see it and hit. But the thing that's gonna give Miles Partain, and I can use Basie on this too. He does it really well. Is the ability to stay square and do this and do that, as opposed to this and this. Because what happens is if they're not fooled, and the net's right here, and you do this, your margin for error is going to be behind the hitter's head, or it's going to be tight, like setting into the block. So that's the drawback. The situation where they scout you out and they're like, all right, he's not hitting this, and I'm waiting right here. The people that are doing it have to make sure that their accuracy is on point, because it creates a margin for error that's more beneficial to the block. But I'm gonna let you get in on this because you have a thought. But that's not the situation with Partain, because Partain, he's playing his margin for error left and right, out to as far as the antenna is concerned, out and in, which Andy Benesh can hit all day. In fact, it look like the margin for error actually looks like part of the play. It looks like they meant to do that. So, their dirty little secret. But something you wanted to add to the whole setting thing, especially a chance to get Gage in on this.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's like Miles being able to do that as a lefty from the right side is exactly what Gage has been doing as a righty on the
yeah. No,
Miles on the right side, Gage as a righty on the left side, right? So he's coming in, instead of having to square to the net, he's being able to actually face and then just snap.
You ain't got no headphone. It's easy for you to do it. Here, show us again. Show the audience again one more time. You ain't got the headset. Show us. Yes, my man. Thank you. Look, you're doing what I can. I got this wire. Oh my goodness. Well, how'd the other guy look? What happened to your thumb? How'd the other guy look?
This happened against Quackle and Hopbig in the Denver AVP.
Ouch.
Pretty early on in the first set, it was a 4-block again. It hit my thumb the wrong way. I'm pretty positive that's something's wrong there. And so I didn't want to get an MRI until the season was done, because I knew I wasn't going to do anything about it. So the day after Motherload, I had a preset MRI. I drove home and had an MRI the next day, and I knew I needed to start getting it healed quickly.
You're talking about the thumb, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's look, you as a former indoor player, I'm sure, even if it hasn't happened to you, like on that 12-man roster at some point, sometimes you penetrate a little bit early and you get darted, and it sounds uglier than it really is. Like the sound, everyone's just like, oh, so yeah, as a former player, I've been there too. And as you know, like I was an indoor setter, so me having to deal 6'1", having to deal with the other team's rock star outside hitter, in system. Sometimes I'm left by myself, and I'm just trying to figure out ways to touch it. And yes, every now and then it pop, it's like boom, you're like, ow. And then you do this, and then you play out the rest of the tournament, because after a while it just becomes numb or whatever, unless it's so painful you can't do it, And me as a setter, that had to use my hands, if it's too much pain, I'm like, I'm out. So, totally get that.
Yeah, brutal. Yeah, indoor for sure. I've probably broken 8 of my fingers, right? This same thumb, my senior year, a bone popped out of it from a dislocation that ruptured the skin. But this one, I just thought it was a bad jam, like normal, like every volleyball player. And then after a month, after 2 months, it's still exactly the same, just sharp pains when I try to hand set and stuff like that. I'm just like, something's not right. It's ended up, luckily, no surgery, but it's just a torn ligament that took some bone off with it when it tore. So just out for 6 to 8 weeks, but I'll get back to it.
How'd you start with the sport? Why volleyball? How'd you start with the sport? Yeah. When did you decide?
I started late. I actually just going to a rec gym league with my dad and my brother when I was, I think, a sophomore in high school is like my first introduction to volleyball. And like I played like
Mm.
old man gym ball. And I'm like, this is fun. And then my junior year, I found out like my high school had a team. I was like, really? So I joined the high school team my
You're like,
junior
I thought this
year.
is just for girls. But go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. And and that's so like I was playing against like Cody Kessel was in Cheyenne Mountain High School and I was Liberty. And so like Cody Kessel was the one that told me, yeah, like there's club volleyball, but you have to drive to Denver. So my senior year, I drove to Denver and played my first year, I guess, of like true organized volleyball.
Right.
And then yeah, I was hooked. I luckily got to play a little bit in like an NAIA college up to my junior
Is
year.
that Quincy?
That call at actually Johnson Wales University in Denver.
Oh, that Johnson
And then
and Wells. That was a good,
yeah,
dude. That's a good program. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah.
Not from the East, because I know the other Johnson and Wells, the Rhode Island team or whatever. There's two Johnson and Wells, but continue.
Yeah, the Denver. I mean, we hosted nationals back to back my sophomore, junior year, and then end of my junior year, they shut down the program, and actually the whole school doesn't exist anymore. At the Denver campus.
Good Lord.
So, but that gave me an opportunity to go play one more year at Quincy, which like super small D1, but I was playing against Ohio State and Loyola at that point, and like being a very undersized middle and seeing a whole new level of the game. It was cool.
What year
Everything
did you
about my
play?
volleyball journey has been a little bit odd, but I've
Yeah.
really liked it.
But the NAIA, what year was that? That you guys hosted or?
Let's see, so that was 2011 to 2014.
Okay.
I didn't play 15, and then I played at Quincy 2016.
Yeah. Well, first of all, NAIA is no joke. Like one of my closest friends I met in my life, Seydou Ajanako, played for Cal Baptist, but I think he played for Park before that. And he has a cousin named Shamzu, and look, they weren't in the NCAA, but all the NCAA teams knew who the hell they were. They're like, yo, that dude's dangerous, you know. And Quincy University, you know, the MIVA, I mean, that's a tough conference to play in, right? I mean, that year, 2011, I think Ohio State won the whole thing. In the decade,
Yeah.
in fact, we can count backwards, right? It's 2023, but it was the decade of the repeat champions, right? So from 2022 to the past, Hawaii twice, right? Long Beach State twice, and then Ohio State twice.
I think
Then
Loyola got it twice.
Loyola Chicago twice, actually facing Lewis in the finals. How's that for an MIVA scare, right? Division II Lewis in the finals, and then UC Irvine twice, and then after that decade of the repeat champions, before that, the year before that, it was Ohio State, and I'm pretty sure that was 2011, 2012. For the audience at home, y'all could have, I could have stopped wasting time. Y'all could just leave it in the comments section for me. So, but So talk to me a little bit about Quincy. Of that 1 year you played at Quincy. Good. Did you play middle block or outside hitter?
Yeah, I played middle blocker.
Okay. Yeah, thankless freaking job, dude. But
Yeah,
but everyone should play it for 1 year. Everyone should play it for 1 year just so they could appreciate it. I
yeah,
swear.
I mean, I love middle block. I mean, it's the reason why I liked hitting Gage's quick tempo sets that we were doing on the sand. He ran a lot of jump back ones for me to like, it just is natural for me as a middle. But I was never a big hit 10-foot line straight down type middle. I was with the middle that's like undersized and gonna find the like open back corner.
Yeah,
So
dynamic. Yeah.
for me, like being able to have that down, I mean, I'm 6'5", so it's not like I'm short, but like in that land of giants, you know, that's a small middle. So
What's your wingspan?
actually my wingspan's only like 6'3". I got short arms. What a
Kevin
bummer.
McCulloch, did you hear that? Someone's got short arms too, man. Sorry, go ahead. Inside joke between me and Kevin, who watches the podcast, but go ahead. Mhm.
But yeah, Quincy, I mean, I loved my experience at Quincy. It was like a land of misfit toys that coach really just cared about people. I was doing this odd like overseas indoor thing where like pay to play indoor like league, like in the Netherlands. And that's where the coach for Quincy saw me there. He was part of that program. And then when he saw my like online petition, when I went home, I started a petition to like bring Johnson Wales volleyball back, trying to like save the team. he saw the petition. He's like, come play for me. So incredible opportunity. He didn't have to do that, and very generous and thankful. So I really, plus I got a master's degree out of it. I chose not to. He wanted me to redshirt 1 year and then finish my degree my second year. I chose to take a year off volleyball, finish my bachelor's, and then go there 1 year and pay for my master's.
Okay, so that was like the perfect storm that worked out for you, timing wise, and this and that. It worked out for him too because he wanted you that year anyway, and I'm glad that happened because you basically found a way to survive what we called I call the volleyball elimination wave, right? From 2000, I think from like 2005 to 2015, they were just getting rid of programs. Cal Baptist, like I mentioned, was NAIA. Then they made them NCAA, and a couple of years later, they were just gone, right? So I'm a guy from the 90s, and just for my East Coast people, I got to give them love for this. LIU, Long Island University, Southampton, killer team. You know, Kyle Robinson, who played on the national team, was on a team. Mike Salick, you know, there's a name, you know, from the Pottstown Rumble Grass Court or whatever. Yeah, they got rid of their program. Roger Williams, Rhode Island, got John Harper. Big shout out to him. One of the more powerful Division III programs, got rid of them. Queens College, this Caribbean coach Carlito had, you know, pretty much guys that played on their national team that made the EIVA finals in 1997. Lost to Penn State, got rid of their program. So I knew it was just this crazy thing where everybody's like, we should have men's beach volleyball for college. And I'm like, why don't you try fixing, you know, show a little love for these elite athletes that are getting it in indoor, man. You know, I mean, Jesus. You know, I didn't mean to go off on a tangent, but I wanted to also let you and our audience know that this is a problem. There was a foreshadowing before that wave came and like consumed all these other these competitive programs under with it. You know, try to get rid of Stanford. Remember, Stanford was when they went too far. Stanford was when everybody's like, whoa, you know, and I'm like, and my friend Wendy Jones, whose son is starting outside at Stanford, Luke Turner. And you might know him because I think Rotman played on that team too at Stanford, Will Rotman. I said, can you imagine if they tried to do that to USC? There would be public crucifixions in the South Bay. They would be building these big wooden crosses on the beach and taking every administrator and literally nailing them to a cross in Manhattan Beach. And you would see public crucifixions, and people asking the cops, "You gonna do something about this?" And the cops are like, "I ain't doing nothing, man. That's USC. You barked up the wrong tree." But yes, care about our program, save our programs. Give me fan question. A lot of people knew that you played indoor before you dipped your toe in the beach, or you were doing kind of the same thing at the same time. Give me one or two valuable tools that you brought from indoor that made you immediately valuable on the beach.
Good question.
Was one of them blocking?
Yeah, I mean, as a middle blocker, I think I had an edge up as far as just like knowing how to like turn the hands and placement, right? Like using them codependently, instead of one moving motion together, like being able to keep one still and then just move the other dependently, which is a hard motor skill to learn, if that's not something that you're already being trained at, right? So that was definitely a big crossover. I mean, the hardest part about being middle transferring to the beach was like you have no serve receive reps and you have no setting reps. Like nobody, like the middles are going to go serve at you. They're not the ones in the back row passing, right? So that was the biggest deficit. But like also, there's something about, you know, having that detriment. Like I knew I needed rep over rep over rep. Like that's something I couldn't slack on if I was going to make this transition to the beach, which like I didn't like rest on my laurels that like my passing is okay, right? Like I just like, this is something I need to drill into my body because it's not used to doing this skill. So I think looking at it was almost an advantage that I didn't have any of those reps because it led to the creation of being able to like focus on it now, if that makes sense.
It makes complete sense. Did outdoor give you a little bit more blocking independence? You know, like sometimes indoor you have to protect the middle, you have to help out the wings, you have to remember blocking lanes, You know what I'm saying? When I played overseas, blocking lanes 1 through 9 or whatever back then. Do you feel a little bit more liberated knowing that even though you could have to one commit to your one block and four, that as a middle you have more permission to go after the hitter because there's one defender back there and there's no second block to help out?
Yeah, especially like when it got up to the speed, like when I'm playing at Quincy against Ohio and Loyola, like it is just that you don't have time to think. You just react, chase a ball and go, right? Like
Right.
just jump and put your hands up there, try to take up space kind of thing. And like the reason I love blocking and beach more is because it's like I'm not necessarily going up there and trying to get a block. I'm trying to force the other player to be uncomfortable enough to do the decision I want them to make, right? Like I'm trying to funnel or shape or create and mold the play into the direction that I want it to go. So even though I'm not up there getting a block every time, like if I am making him think that something is open and they choose to do a cut shot or a high line, and that's actually like what I'm telling my defender they should be defending, right? Then that's a huge win. And so I think being able to have it's a little more like chess rather than like I don't even know what indoor speed checkers like I you know what I mean, like it's just it's a little more methodical.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, and for me, I only played 1 year of college at Hunter, and we were basically six outside hitters, where two guys we draw straws. So two of us got to block middle, so it wasn't something that I considered very valuable, and like what you just said, until I kind of moved out here, where there were some of the indoor middles who decided to play beach. Which you know me, I'm just idea sharing, open to new ideas, and just want to listen to people that I have more experience than, listen to people that I have more experience than me. My boy Greg Faulkner, he's an indoor standout at Cal Northridge. Even on the beach, he's one of the okay for Greg. You're gonna love this. He's the guy everyone asks to play fours, but nobody asks to play doubles, right? Because he has to be able to set his partner and serve receive whatever. But the two things that he brought was the block, because like you said, hitters have these cut shot and roll shot decisions to make, but they have to remind themselves there's a cave troll at the net that can F up your world. Wow, cut over, no problem. Oh, boom, knocked down by Greg. And the other Greg, Greg Schenkel, a name that a lot of people don't know, but older guy. He won the NCAA's in 1992 with Pepperdine, with Dane Blanton and Sorensen or whatever. And we live actually, we walk our kids to school every morning, and he's always
Cool.
he's 6'8", and he's always giving me some great ideas when I moved here, because when I moved here I was strictly an indoor guy, and it's 7 years. It's 7 years of straight beach. This is all I've done since I moved here. So I'm less years experience, but my sample size, doing it 10 hours a day every day since I've been
Yeah,
here, I'm more ahead of everybody. So, but
totally.
but I
And I
thought you'd
know,
appreciate the name Faulkner, because I think he was
oh, Greg Faulkner. I
yeah.
know him well. I mean, I lived in Hermosa for 2 years and worked at Barnacles
Yep.
and like was part like I definitely know and have seen and played fours on
Yeah.
8th Street Court right out there and
Smack fest.
all
Yeah.
that. The dude's a monster, right? He's
Yeah.
he's definitely the one that you want on your fours roster.
Yeah.
And he's it's wildly different of a game, isn't it? The fours double like
Well, the old saying is is won by the beach players, fours are won by the middles, and sixes are won by the setters and opposites. Right? Because it's more of an indoor game, and you can't good luck trying to roll shot on sixes, right? And especially Manhattan sixes, where there's you got to hit. There's no antenna. There's an advantage. There's no antenna. You can play the poles, right? You've been in Hermosa, so, and we have a lot of mutual friends. I think you probably know that, like Rob Diorora. I know you play with a little bit. I know Rob very, very well, and he's such a
Rob was the first guy I ever played a qualifier with. It was in Texas. Skylar was like, "You just got to try one." And I'm
yeah,
like, "I don't have any." Like, he's like, "Text Rob, and he'll meet you." Like, so sight unseen, we show up like off the airplane and say, "Hey, I'm Ty, I'm Rob," and we stepped on and played the qualifier in Texas together. And but we stuck together for a couple of tournaments. He is a great dude.
he
Just
is.
the nicest human off the court.
Yeah,
But then when I played with him on the court, he would throw those like foam banners. And like there was one, we played the Laguna Beach Open, and there was some bad call. And I'm sitting there trying to argue my side with a rep of like if it was I think it was like a lift or like a pole dig, right? And Rob's heated, right? He's already punted a volleyball and he just like walks off. And the ref is still talking to me. He's like, "So is this a timeout?" In the middle of my argument, I'm like, "What do you mean is this a timeout?" He just pointed, and there's Rob just 5 courts down, just sitting in the ocean. And I'm like, "Well, yeah, obviously this is a timeout." So like, I had to go
There's a
collect
guy
Rob.
hurting the cause. Right? You're trying to put on an argument, and then somewhere behind you can't see. Backstage is a gentleman hurting the cause. Yeah. But
So good old Rob.
Yeah.
Yeah, I miss him. He was a good friend when I lived out there.
yeah. Well, you had me at good old Rob because before we move on to other questions, I can't emphasize enough what you when you mentioned Rob Diororo the person. Rob Diororo, the person's fantastic. Great. I had the pleasure of meeting with him, migrating and coaching a little bit. He played with Rob McLean, who's my Rob. No,
Oh, yeah.
I coached him and Rob Manhattan Beach Open, and we had a tight game against Baranek and Kolinsky, who, by the way, from the qualifier. You want to talk about? We were talking about story and crowd sizes getting bigger. Qualifier to the semifinals. Qualifier, main draw, semifinals. So that was
Yeah.
the team we eventually lost to, and Rob was a good. I mean, Rob, for a guy who's a control freak that doesn't want to be coached, um, I wasn't trying to coach him, but I made sure he was close enough to listen to what I was saying to McLean. Because what I was saying to McLean was regards to defensive schemes and its conjunction with his blocking. So he let me coach him by just listening on the side, we did the best we can. I told him, I said, I know how to beat Eric and build the first game. We can win the first set, but beyond that, when they start making adjustments, it's going to take the three of us. And that's what happened. We won the first set because I knew how to beat him, but I knew JT was coaching him, and he lives in Florida right now. He's one of the masters at making in-game adjustments between a technical timeout and between the first and second set. And Bill Kolinsky, processes that. He's a little bit of a control freak too. Every play got something to say. Some people are like, how do you have the freaking bandwidth for Bill? But right, am I right though? But another nice person. But geez, I like the conversation. I'm like, the fans are like, wow,
Yeah.
big up to Bill, no big up to Eric. So, how about serve? Like indoor serve, you're hitting the beach. It's not a 3-man pass, right? It's 2, right? And you don't have a middle back passing. There's another variable. And predominantly, if not never, no one uses their hands to pass out to outdoors. Did you find your serve as a middle from transitioning from middle to the beach?
That's
Mm.
interesting because like as a middle indoor, I'm just ripping a jump serve top spin as hard as I can.
Yeah.
Right. Moving to the beach, especially in Colorado, for those who have come out here and played the mother load, you can't do that. The air is a lot thinner out here. The ball is not going to dive down to the sand like it is in California. So, and it's so funny every year. And the Denver AVP, the same thing, right? Like you see these big boys that are just using a bombing serve, and it's a whole different snap here. So when I first started in the sand, I was like, I couldn't serve at all. My serve was gone, non-existent. I learned a float serve. I'd never liked float serve. I just started jump floating like this year. Like I was just a stay on the ground float serve kind of person. But when I did my short stint of living in Hermosa, like you can jump serve there a little bit more, especially if you get a nice consistent oceanside breeze. You can use that wind and kind of wail on a jump serve. But here in Colorado, it's much harder for that jump top spin. So that was definitely a massive change for me from indoor to beach, was just figuring out what was effective and placement over power. And it's not necessarily about an ace, but it's making sure if a hitter is less comfortable hitting from the middle than the pin, well, I'm going to avoid serving him on the sideline. I'm going to pinch him to the middle and make his approach somewhere that he has less tools in his toolbox than if I were to serve his sideline and now he's out in his favorite spot by the pin and can be deceptive. So again, more like chess, right? Like the person you are serving is most likely hitting. So the thought process behind where you're serving them and how that changes their hit or their attack option that's not the same as indoor, right? Usually
No.
the indoor passers are just passing and they're not
Yeah.
involved in the attack of the play.
Yeah, well, and also indoor, it's target specific, right? It's timing specific because you have to set a middle where a beach you just have to something I call check the boxes, right? If you're passing high enough and forward enough, so boom, one, now you got your court vision back before your setter even sets the ball. Now you can see the block. Now you can see the dig. Now you can see that girl in the bikini top behind the dig. You know, check who's been checking you out the whole time curiously, right? So, and then the second box is the pass optionable? Is it something my hitter can set onto and set back? And then box number 3, is it something if my setter decides to set me? Do I keep my range? Is it, from shoulders to the pole to the time of your contact? So indoor really just has to be high enough for you to check those 3 boxes. I mean outdoor and indoor. It's timing specific. The setter's already there. You know what I'm saying? And good luck trying to be constantly shooting passes to the top of the tape where your guy's supposed to have a running start and try to take off and jump set that, right? But yeah, good setters. Rob D'Aurora is a good setter. Scott Cronick, I know you played a little ball with him too. Big shout out to another guy. It's weird because I'm not even like, I don't really talk to a lot of the locals out here, but I love me some Scott Cronick and I love me some D'Aurora, and I did it twice. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you were saying, that the passing for the option is, I think that is the thing that can contribute this mother load, this run that we had, is like, if I am much less in my head about what am I going to do next as a hitting perspective, like other tournaments, you're like, okay, I tried high line, they dug, I tried cross, I've done that, like, and you're like almost planning your hit before you even pass the ball, right? And playing with Gage and the style of offense that we were running, where I just always want him to have an option jump set, the only thing I'm thinking about is connecting to a good solid pass. So it kept the first step more important than the next step.
Yes.
And just that mindset shift, right? Like, of course it should be. The pass should always be more important than the hit, because you don't have a hit unless you pass the ball, right? But focusing on like that is the key to your success, is having an option pass where it's perfect and your setter is getting the block to go up with him. It's huge. It just dialed in my focus in my game, and Gage released a lot of pressure from me with his option hitting.
There are some plays you had nobody up. It was terrific, dude.
Yeah. If you're seeing every single serve in a tournament, there's a level of pressure there. And if your partner can just release it a little bit by taking 1 or 2 of those, it helps a lot.
Yeah, man. I mean, some of the jumps, some of the plays, there were definitely a bunch of enough plays for me to count with both hands where you had nobody up, because the set selection was great. And I really liked 2 things about your pass. I liked that you weren't passing to option. You were just passing where you had the option to hit, right? Sometimes you do that with intention. It messes up all 3 plays, right? The second thing I liked is you brought that little hold at the end. And as a coach, I'm a big stickler on holding your platform at the end. So even if you pass low, you holding your platform, educating our audience, allows it for the setter. The best way for the setter to describe it, I felt like the ball was waiting for me to get there to set it. The ball was waiting in the air, had this hang time, and was waiting for me to set that. And you'll see a lot of the better passers. I mean, I can go Partain all day, but let's go in the European scene. Mullen Sorum, Andrews Mall. You'll see that indoor hold at the end. And with the women, almost 10 times the guys. You'll see Betsy Flint. Betsy Flint preaches hold.
Usually across the board, you'll see the women's fundamentals and discipline like that with holding a platform is almost always better than the men's game, I think.
Yeah, with lower center of gravity, man, and lower net, right? They have to be more honest, right? They're the same size as us playing on a women's height net.
Talk about flight trajectory of that ball coming at you at a serve.
How's that Catholic thing go? Up, down, left, right. Yeah, I do that every time I'm on a woman's net, dude.
Yeah, I see like some of the women serving. I'm like, yeah, I'm so glad I'm on the other side of
that. No doubt. So, fan question for the last episode. I had Theo Brunner last Thursday, but I think I'd like to re-ask it now because it's just a fun question to ask. It's an interesting question. Is there anything in volleyball, any move in volleyball that should be worth 2 points instead of 1?
Is there any move in volleyball that should be worth 2
Like,
points? Is that
as far as, all right, let's just talk about what points are. Points are aces, kills, and blocks, right? Those are things that are immediate. Are just mathematical points.
sure?
Is there anything in volleyball that should be worth 2 points?
That's an interesting question. I mean, just like out of pure entertainment humor,
Of
like a
course.
skyball ace,
Of
like
course.
it's just like
It's not like the
yeah,
it's not like the AVP's watching us and be like, "Yo, Ty Coots, Jason DeVeas, that's a great idea." Donaldson, you're fired. We have new
yeah,
ideas.
no, I mean, like, would it be entertaining if like a skyball ace is worth 2 points? Yeah, but then you're gonna get like so many people just doing wild skyballs out all the time that it might be. But like the people that can do like Jeff Samuels, he's got a mean skyball serve,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
Uh, for me, I think the coolest play that Gage and I did the whole tournament, it was like an overpass from, I think it was Adam Roberts and Jeff Samuels. I might be wrong on what game it was, but we had an overpass and it was short, tight to the net. Like some net is here, and the ball's like coming like just right by it. And I passed like just a low tempo, didn't go above Gage's forehead in front of him. And I yelled back shoot to the opposite antenna. And so I just took off sprinting and he did a back shoe and I had to like dive and hit it and it scored a point. Like I think if you can just
Yeah,
do
like that
something
should
wild,
be two.
that should be worth 2, right? That's hilarious.
That should be worth two. I think anytime. How about anytime you have a set with an open net?
Oh,
2 points. Well, for me, I like the block. I like or I mean, aces would be great. I mean, I mean, Theo was almost irritated by the whole thought of him. He wasn't thinking of ways he could score. He could use that and score 2 points. But I think the whole thought of him, someone doing that to him and they get 2 points from. I think the question annoyed the hell out of him. I'll call him and ask him later. But go ahead.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the block is such a momentum changer, right? It's just such a shutdown already that like you have a big swing that is gonna like just bounce out of the stadium, and you put your hand in front of it and just clamp it,
Yeah.
and like the AVP starts going monster block,
Yeah.
right? Like,
And that
everybody
already feels like it's worth more than 1 point, right? So that's why I
Right,
was like,
exactly,
yeah, I like clean ace. I'll go clean ace. Anyone that a player doesn't touch, any ace that a player doesn't touch. That's for me. That's my 2 points right there. That's what I'll go. That means you thought it was out and it was in, or someone's serve is just so devastatingly good on the beach. And most of them are former indoor players, right? Like if you remember when Reed Pretty hit the beach, his jump serve was
Oh
ridiculous.
yeah,
And you live in Hermosa Beach. Remember KJ Chris Johnson?
oh yeah, KJ, yeah. Talk about length and some snap on a serve.
Just get your bulletproof
Yeah.
vest, man. So
Now you see like Taylor Sanders coming out and just ripping serves, like yeah.
and that Sunday it rained. That finals, it rained, and that Wilson Optics. So look, that's not the Mikasa. The Wilson Optics is gonna have a friendly drop, right?
Yeah.
And of course the Mikasa. Even if you miss, you can't miss. The king of the beach, but. Theo was like, the guy was already a good server, and to take into consideration we have rain and the ball's wet, and anything that had the remote possibility of going out is going in by like 3 feet. And he wasn't making an excuse why he lost the MBO, but he said that was it didn't help,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, clean ace is a good one
yeah,
for
okay.
sure. I
All
mean,
right.
what if like unforced error is just worth 2 to the other team? Like you just bomb a ball out of bounds. The
Yeah.
other team didn't have to do anything. Now they got 2 points. Think how that would change the game.
It's true. It would change the game. But to me, that's also in the category of psychological 2 points, right? He hit it out, and the next one, I mean, might even be a roll, or maybe he just like swings as hard as he can, begs the ref for a touch, like we see a lot of indoor juniors do. In indoor juniors sixes, you're hitting middle of the court and begging for a touch, and the referee's looking at you like, so many things can go wrong with that choice you just made, son, and you get no touch here.
Right.
All right, so I know we only. I don't know if you have a hard stop or whatever, and we're past our time. But I have a lightning round. But I have one more important question I want to ask before the lightning round. There are a lot of ups and downs in your volleyball career, right? Sometimes you go and tournament kind of goes another way, and you're like, man, this way, okay, Chalk it up, bad weekend. And there's some weekends where you feel like even if you miss, you can't miss, and you could do no right and do no wrong. So all of these ups and downs lead to these moments, these championship moments, these semifinal moments, these small tournament moments, these personal moments for you where maybe you saw it, maybe family and friends saw it too. So let's talk about the Motherlode. Your name is now going to be etched on that pole, 50th anniversary, and this etched next to the Casey's, Patterson, Casey Jennings, right? Derek Zimmerman, I just talked to him last week. I want him to come through next year. I'd love for him to come through and commentate with me and Randy. This group of just extraordinary gentlemen and even more highly competitive players. So I'll just ask like a media person, how does it feel? How does it feel knowing that your name's going to be etched on there, right? It's because really the same way Manhattan Beach feels about their name being etched on a boardwalk. Just to convey to my audience here, Aspen, Colorado, having your name on that pole is huge. It's huge. It's because I want to talk about Aspen before, but I want to allow you to answer this question because, you know, my mind, it races so fast I could drive us both off the cliff. How does it feel, man? Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a feeling like, especially like I had said previously, like I grew up around this tournament, like before I even really knew it was a big deal, right? Like I'm playing in the grass. I play my first open tournaments there and I never make it onto that like main strip of nets. I'm in the back, like contenders courts. So now after years, I mean, I'm 30 now. So 15 years of, I didn't play it every year, but I probably played that tournament probably 8, 9, 10 times. So like a decade of playing that tournament. And now I get the chance to win it and have my name on that post. That's, it's pretty wild. It's humbling in the fact that like you realize how long it takes sometimes to accomplish something, you know? And it's just in the amount of people that reached out afterwards was just heartwarming. Like people I had no idea were like watching or interested in. Like I have extended family in Iowa that was like reaching out, like we watched your game, and like when my brother's friend group up in Fort Collins that they love the sport, they like all played like the double BA grass level, but they're just like sending videos of everybody. They were camping, they were at their friend's house, they just like pulled over their car and was watching it on their phone, like from all across like Colorado and some different states, sending me videos of where they're watching and supporting from. And it's just cool. Like I'm nowhere near as big of a name as so many in this sport, right? But then like I didn't even realize how many people were following this journey along with me, and the fact that they took time to reach out and show congrats and support, and like my old high school coach Karen Warnock, and like people that have just been a big part of my life coming out and saying congrats and that they watched it and they saw it, was pretty cool.
You know what's also pretty cool? I told Randy Stokely, you have no idea how magical this place is to be on a general level. Make sure my mic's still working. I think I lost volume, but oh no, I didn't. I'm all right. So I wanted to convey how magical this place is just to be. You have the mountains in the background. It's this majestic view. It's almost like a green screen, for Christ's sakes. But I also want to convey that there is some really, really great competition here, right? Everyone's like, you know, it's not the same as the NBO. And I'm like, well, you got someone that won the Motherlode who actually has a victory over the Manhattan Beach Open champions, right? So I mean, so we're looking from top to bottom. Yeah, NBO is a place to be, this and that. But there's 3 things I liked about Motherlode, and we're gonna go lightning rounds after this. One, I told Randy, you have no, I can't explain it, but you'll understand when you get there. And when he left, he says, I get it. He says there's some talent out here. I had such a great time. Remember the post-game interview? Randy just had a great time chatting up with you. He might have met you before, maybe not. It didn't matter. He's just, you know, Gage Basie, and Randy was one end. The second end was, I equate Aspen to the Yankees and Mets Subway Series in 2000, right? The rest of the country didn't care it was a Subway Series, but New York didn't care what the rest of the country thought. and that's what I give you with Aspen. So before we go lightning rounds, we're gonna take turns, do a little 30. I want to do a 1 minute shout out to some of the people, and I'm gonna give you 60 seconds too. Okay. So let me set my clock. This is what happens when you tech your own show. Yeah. All right. Have fun with that. 1, 2, pause. And I won't even take the whole minute to do this, but there's certain names I just want to, I didn't get a chance to shout out before that I want to recognize now. So I'll go first, you go second. So big shout out first and foremost to Corey Brindell, right? Corey Brindell, you're an absolute mensch. When you bought this, people were apprehensive. They knew you had ideas that might have been conflicting with theirs, but you found a way to make this tournament a little bigger, a little bit more competitive, and at the same time, you kept it intimate where this small group of family and friends and new people had this emotional investment. Shout out to smiling Jackie Wegner. Jackie, who won with Lena Sokolowski, who won this year and was in the semifinals. Semifinals last year was the best women's match I saw the entire year. Not just in Motherlode, anywhere. That match last year was the best match I saw, women's match of the year, anywhere. And I'm a big fan of Nuss and Cloth. I follow them religiously and disturbingly. But big up to Jackie Wegner. Big up to everybody at Let's Go. Big up to everybody at Kamina. I got some gear from y'all and this and that. Big up to the guys who make the most expensive but the best tasting burger I've ever had in my life. My wife was like, for that money, I better have sparks flying out of it. And I'm like, babe, it does. So shout out to Corey Brindell. Shout out to everyone who's been such a great host. You guys are a clique, but it is my honor, duty, and privilege to be part of that clique now. 60 seconds. Shout out. Go, baby. Shout out to your enemies. Shout out to your competitors.
Yeah, shout out to you, Jason, for having me on here, for coming up and announcing the games and putting like on a different level. Shout out to Randy, obviously just a legend. Being interviewed by him after the tournament was just amazing. Shout out to Corey, like you said, bringing this tournament and Let's Go Volleyball and the people that are behind the scenes making that happen. Huge shout out to just the Colorado volleyball family, like the Island, the Oasis, like everybody, you know who you are. It's just like the support and love and competition. And if you want to, you can play 7 days a week here at good high level volleyball is awesome. Obviously shout out to like my mom and dad who put me through club, and my family, my brothers, and endless pile of support. My wife who served Gage and I balls before every match. Gage's dad swears that Jordan is the reason that we won those games, not us. So just everybody that's taken the time to say congrats to me, that's been there along the way, and yeah, that's 60 seconds. So I'm sure there's countless more to thank, but I really appreciate like everybody that's been through it.
Ooh, I said I wasn't gonna cry, right? You got me. Oh, man, I need a minute. Jesus. I almost cried, man, when you said shout out to just everybody who put it together, because I knew the work and the, not just the work, but the emotional investment and caring how not necessarily the finished product, not necessarily the destination, but the journey in making sure everyone has a good time and competes and makes it about something where you have this vision that came into full fruition. One more thing, and this is dedicated to you. These are called lightning round questions. I don't know if you watched the podcast, but a lot of the same questions, a lot of new ones. Are you ready? These are for you. So, and go. Favorite comedian?
Jay Leno.
All right. Last good book you read?
Oh, The Wealthy Gardener.
Last good movie you watched? Anywhere, in theater or on tape. Okay. Marvel or DC?
Sorry, what?
Marvel or DC? Okay.
That's Marvel.
Pool or beach?
Beach.
Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter?
Harry Potter.
Bourbon, vodka, or tequila?
Tequila, for sure.
Favorite sport outside of volleyball?
Ping pong?
There you go. God, I just wasted 5 seconds of your time. Favorite action film star growing up?
It has to be James Bond, whoever was playing James Bond at that moment.
Nice. Any favorite conspiracy rabbit hole?
Right now it's AI, and that we're all in a simulation.
Oh my goodness. Let me tell you something. Conspiracy 3 years ago are now spoiler alerts in the present day. So, all right, before we get out of here, is there any particular website? I know you're killing it right now in real estate, and just doing good things out there. But is there a particular Insta handle, website people want to know more about what you've been up to? Maybe people have volleyball questions. Maybe there's some young guy out there who's like, I'm a 6'3", I'm a 6'5" blocker too. Give me some tips.
Yeah, I mean, my Instagram is just Ty Coutts, TyCoutts. Technically, I'm starting like Ty Talks Lending, so any hashtag of Ty Talks Lending, I'm just trying to spread education about mortgages and lending and financing, how to build real estate. So I'm a mortgage lender. I'm licensed in probably 48 states if you're doing investment stuff, like
Wow.
conventional 12. But like chances are, if you're listening, I'd probably help you out. Even if I'm not doing your loan for you, I just love spreading advice and education because I think you can really create generational wealth through real estate, and the power of just owning a home versus renting is huge. So anyone that has any more questions about that, seriously, don't hesitate. I love talking about it.
Do you have any idea what you just did to our viewership right now? Watch your DMs light up, bro. All right. So listen, for everybody at home, Ty might love you, but I don't love any of you guys. In fact, I'm out of here. All right. So for all of you at home, for all of you on your iPads, for all of you on your iPhones, for all of you on your desktop, who runs the world? Old school, baby. Old school. For Ty Coutts, I am Jason DeBillias. This is episode 188 of the Option Podcast. Stay with me. I'm going to hit my music and we're out. Come check out the Option Podcast on OptionVB.com. It's also available on iTunes and Spotify and on YouTube under the NY Varsity Sports handle. You're going to love what you hear.